Hi there, my name is Chris, and my pronouns are they, them, and I am the Survivor Leadership Program Manager of the National Survivor Network. This video is going to go over what membership means. What does it mean to be a member of the National Survivor Network? If you're watching this video, there's a chance you're curious. So here's a little bit about membership in the NSN. So what is membership? The first thing I can say is that you're joining a community. We're a professional community. We focus on our shared interests in advocacy, professional movement work, anti-violence work. These are all the things that bring us together, but we are a community, and that means that we prioritize community building and community safety. That means that sometimes some of our other deliverables may be slowed while we work on navigating intra-community conflict or harm. Because first and foremost, we are learning together how to be in community in a way that contributes to movement building rather than works against it. Joining the NSN is a commitment to a certain kind of advocacy within our network. What that means is we're all advocates, but there's many ways to be an advocate. The NSN has a certain set of values. It has a certain approach to how we do our advocacy. And when you join the NSN, hopefully it's because you're already interested in that approach, right? We aren't here for people to join so that we can try to change their minds. We're here for people who already align with this approach to join together in shared advocacy and co-organizing. Joining the NSN is an opportunity to learn, to grow, and to engage in mutual learning and co-organizing. Together, we come into this, all of us, with things to share and things to learn. And we engage in mutual learning from and alongside each other. We also do organizing to change policies, to provide better supports for survivors, to prevent human trafficking. These are all things that are important when we organize together. Now, note that we think of this as organizing, not just as policy advocacy or systems advocacy or nonprofit professional work. The reality is we are working with a community organizer lens, no matter what level of work we're advocating within. And what that means is we're building collective power, right? We're not about individual power because there's always going to be one individual who has more power than others. Our goal is to figure out how to build collective power. So what is NSN membership not? This is an important question to ask. We find sometimes that people come expecting one thing and are disappointed when it's not that. So we are not a source of income or guaranteed consulting and referrals. We occasionally make referrals. We occasionally have consulting opportunities. And we do have a small number of working group co-facilitator paid opportunities to be part of the NSN's leadership, but we can't guarantee any of that. We have so few of those opportunities available that anyone joining because they are expecting this is going to be frustrated. Joining the NSN is not something you can just put on your resume when you're not interested in being part of a community, right? We want people who want to join a community, who are interested in putting in the work to build a community with shared collective power. That is what we're looking for. We're less interested in people who want to just put this on their resume to try to look fancy or to try to impress others or to try to claim that they're aligned with the NSN when they're not engaged in our community building. Joining the NSN is not a guarantee that others in the NSN will always do what you want. We do lean into generative conflict, which we will talk about a little bit later. But you're going to still have people who have perspectives different from yours, even within our shared values. You're going to have people in the NSN who will call you out or call you in on your nonsense if you're acting out in ways that harm others. You need to be able to receive that information. Joining the NSN is not ride or die either way. And what I mean by that is we don't expect you to forever be committed to the NSN. If there's a point where you find that the NSN is not the right place for your organizing or not the right container for the work you need or want to do, please step away. And you can step away temporarily while you take care of yourself if you're going through a hard time. You can also terminate your membership. That's fine. If at some point in the future you decide that you want back in, you can reapply. Right? So we don't expect you to stay forever. The door goes both ways. You can step away if you need to. The flip side of that is the NSN will love and support and nurture you in the best ways that we know how as community organizers. And also, if you behave in ways that are harmful to other members of our community or to our community building efforts, and you aren't willing to take accountability for them, your membership may be suspended or terminated. So please know that you're committing to certain expectations and values when you join the NSN. We aim to provide skill building and support for people in all places in their professional or advocacy careers. We have some members who are very early in their career, are not doing nonprofit or professional work at all. We have some who are doing professional movement work, nonprofit work, or unpaid community organizing extensively, but maybe have not done as much work within the anti-trafficking sector itself. We have some people who are executive directors or CEOs of their own nonprofits. We have some who are experienced, very seasoned community organizers, experts in racial justice or transformative justice. And we have some who enjoy doing a good bit of public speaking and training. And our goal is to make sure that we are providing enough opportunities that people at any level can learn from each other, expand their perspectives, and grow as community organizers. One of the things that we offer are weekly skill sessions, and we tend to offer those almost on a semester basis. So we have them typically from around February to May and September to December. We offer weekly opportunities for members to join and learn with and from each other. They're very informal. Sometimes they are taught or led by other members or by other survivors who maybe aren't members. Sometimes we have them led by other professionals in the field who are coming in and sharing their knowledge. Some of the topics, to give you an idea, we've covered in those include boundaries in the workplace, turning lived experience into resumes and cover letters, mentoring, it's not all about you, active and reflective listening as a support person, and making accessible online spaces. So this is just a sampling of some of the topics we might cover in our weekly skill sessions. We also bring in trainings periodically outside of our regular meetings and skill shares where they're a little more intense of a learning opportunity. Often those are open to NSN members, but we do occasionally open these trainings up to friends and colleagues of the NSN, people that we partner with regularly, people who we feel would benefit from the training. So a couple of examples of those. We have one coming up soon at the time of recording on Intro to Community Organizing with Nikita Mitchell and Chinyere Tutashinda. We have Exploring Your Relationship with Money, and that was by Free From. That was a really good session where we talked about how sometimes the messaging that we get about money as young people or early in our lives can really deeply influence the way we approach money today as adults. We had a session on the 4 parts of accountability and how to give a genuine apology with transformative justice practitioner Mia Mingus. So this is an example of some of the trainings that we offer. We want them to be something that will benefit us as professionals and organizers, but also that benefits us as humans, right? In the way that we show up with each other in community. When you're a member, and whether or not you've completed onboarding, you can get our monthly-ish member newsletter. But once you attend your onboarding session, which is required to get access to our interactive events, you can attend our monthly member meetings where we discuss the business of the NSN. You can access our Google group, which is one way, right? It's not for discussion, but we do use it to send out calendar invitations and quick announcements, Zoom invites for our events. We also have a Slack for ongoing discussion and sharing between members. Again, the newsletter is available without completing orientation. Completion of orientation is required for the other events. We do have a few different kinds of membership. So survivors in other countries who align with our values and agree to our community agreements may become associate members to gain access to our educational opportunities. We still have to focus on US-based policy, although we recognize that US anti-trafficking policy has a global component. But because of our funding and our scope and our capacity, we currently focus our policy organizing on the US. But we do want to make sure that our community and our learning opportunities are open to people in other countries who align with our values and who agree to our community agreements, because we recognize there are not a whole lot of survivor spaces for survivors who align with our values and want a kind of community that is held through shared agreements like ours. So full and associate members can access our Slack. Full members can access our monthly meetings. Our members only interactive trainings and professional development opportunities are for full and associate members. We typically only pass along job or contract opportunities to full members. And typically any contract opportunities we have are full members only, and working group leadership are as well. We do have a space in that first year that you become a full member where we consider you a junior member. You can still access the Slack and attend the monthly meetings and come to the interactive trainings. But typically, job or contract opportunities and working group leadership are reserved for folks who have been in the network for a year with either no grievances or demonstrated effort at responding to grievances. Something that is unique about the NSN compared to other spaces is we limit trauma narratives. We tend to not tell our trafficking or trauma stories. We already know we're all survivors. If you're a member, you have lived experience of trafficking. So we don't really focus on telling that. We don't want to stay activated in our community spaces. We don't want to trigger others in our community spaces. We want people to know that if they're coming to a meeting where we're going to discuss a professional topic, that we're going to discuss that topic and not have to move into, not regularly have to move into holding space for other people's trauma. That can be jarring, right? That way we know that the space we offer is trauma sensitive and thoughtful. If you're going to share any details of your story, we encourage people to ask yourself why. Why am I sharing this detail of my experience? Is it because I genuinely think other people need to hear it to understand? Or is it because I want to be heard and validated right now? The reason we do this is our focus is on professional development. We are not funded to provide clinical support, and we really don't have capacity to provide clinical support. And that means we don't want to open up a trauma space that we don't have capacity to support properly. If you want to have a space where people are sharing their trauma narratives, you're going to want to have peer support, mental health support available for people who have to tap out. You're going to want to have processing spaces available afterwards for people to join and receive the emotional support they need. We don't have capacity for that because that's not our focus. That's not our scope. We want to limit vicarious trauma for survivors working in our network, including you. We want you to know that if you come to a space that's about the work, that we're going to have minimal trauma details so that you can come to that space ready to learn and feeling safe. And also, survivor storytelling is overly normalized and even expected in other spaces, and we resist that. I think that all of us are more than our trauma stories, and we try to model that in practice. We do lean into generative conflict. There is no way, even with our shared values, that we are going to have a group of over 100 survivors in one network who are regularly in community with each other, who never disagree, never have conflict, never have personality differences, never get annoyed with each other. That's simply not realistic, right? We have our values, and if someone's behavior or treatment of others is outside of our values, that's something we need to have a conversation about. But within the container of our values, we are going to have conflict, but we want that conflict to be generative, not counterproductive. A lot of us are scared of conflict because of our past. A lot of times, for many of us who are survivors, conflict has meant there were scary consequences coming. So we either avoid it or we dive into it, fist swinging, ready to fight. And neither of those are generative, right? So generative conflict holds repair and growth as its goals and ideals. Counterproductive conflict has being right or proving the other person wrong as its goals and ideals. Generative conflict is between people who are collaborating toward greater understanding and equity. Counterproductive conflict loses sight of collaboration. Generative conflict is between people who are listening to and hearing each other. Counterproductive conflict causes participants, particularly those with marginalized identities, to feel talked over, unheard, or unseen. And finally, generative conflict is solution-oriented, where counterproductive conflict is not solution-oriented. We do expect all members to honor confidentiality. And this is one where I think a lot of survivors are immersed in spaces where gossip is the norm. Gossip-focused, confidentiality-breaking interactions are not part of the NSN's values. They're in contradiction to our values. This is something where if you violate confidentiality, that will mean that your membership will be immediately suspended until we can have a chance to have a conversation. If you out someone as a survivor outside of NSN spaces, if you out someone as an NSN member, if you share things in other spaces that were discussed or that you learned through your NSN membership, these things will cause your membership to be paused until we can have a conversation. Because we value community accountability, they won't automatically mean that your membership will be terminated, but we will suspend your access to our meetings, our Slack, and all interactive spaces until you've met with someone from the membership and community working group to discuss what the violation was and what our expectation is. Obviously, repeated violations of this will cause your membership to be terminated. So do not forward or screenshot communications of our discussion groups without the specific expressed agreement of the original poster and any other people who are involved in the interaction. Any information you gain by virtue of being in the NSN should not be shared outside of the NSN. And do not assume anyone else is out as a survivor, who they're out to at all. Do not make these assumptions about people. Again, confidentiality is very important in the NSN. Confidentiality violations, confidentiality and privacy violations, harassment, doxing, violating people's boundaries. These are things that will cause your membership to be suspended pending a conversation That's just our protocol, by the way. That doesn't mean we don't like you or that we're going to kick you out. That just means that we're not giving you access to other members to harm until we've had conversations about that harm to make sure we understand what's happening and that we're all on the same page around what we need for repair. As a reminder, we have had occasionally people who have joined, who agreed to the values when they joined, who later were annoyed that they were expected to be in alignment with the values in order to remain members. So this is just the reminder that if you don't find yourself aligned with the NSN's human rights framework, public health approach, harm reduction emphasis, or values, you can terminate your membership at any time using the form in the discussion group or by emailing the Survivor Leadership Program Manager. Nobody's forced or expected to join the NSN, and nobody is forced or expected to remain in it. You can still maintain the friendships that you've made in the NSN, whether or not you're a member, and we will still lift you up and support your work. So if you're still interested in membership, your next step is going to be moving on to the page on our website about exploring your motivation for movement leadership.